clip, two German bisexuals.
Oh, you English are so superior, aren't you?
Thank you, comrade.
And now, macroaggressions.
That's what assholes call it.
With your host,
Buddy, I don't know who you are, but you're about to get chlamydia.
Charlie Robinson.
Hey, Whitey, where's your hat?
You want to drop the blame on Charlie and say it's all Charlie's fault.
He was a retard.
I get some goddamn diuretic.
Welcome to Macroaggressions. I'm your host, Charlie Robinson. If you are watching us on Rockfin, Odyssey, Fan.video, Vigilante.tv, or you're listening wherever podcasts are served, thank you so much. We appreciate the support. If you want to connect with me, the website is theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at Macroaggression, where I may or may not argue with robots. LegalShield has been in business for 50 years. They're available in the United States and Canada. And what they do is it's the collective buying power of all of us directed towards high power law firms in the area. It gives you access to an attorney at a very reasonable price. How reasonable? Like $30 a month will get you access to an attorney that has on average 22 years of experience. So you're not going to get somebody fresh out of law school. If there are issues that you need handled by an attorney, do you have a last will and testament? You need one. Do you have a financial power of attorney, a medical power of attorney? All of these things are documents that as adults we've got to have. Nobody wants to spend the money to hire a lawyer to do this. It's going to cost you a couple grand. But I'll tell you what, if you're a member of LegalShield, first thing you should do, month one, is set up an appointment with your attorney and go in and get these things knocked out, then fold them up, put them in your safe, and forget about them. The last thing in the world you want after you're dead is to have the state involved in your affairs. So make sure that you do something about that and be proactive as opposed to reactive. It's not just legal documents. They've got all kinds of things. They've got a small business plan that you can add on. If you're a gun owner or gun carrier, they have documentation for that. They have Identity Shield that can help you in with reputation management, credit monitoring, passwords, things like that. Look, there's a lot going on. I suggest just go to the website, www.don'tgetpushedaround.com. That's the domain that's specific to us. You can take a look. If you need, if the IRS is harassing you about a W-2 situation, send it to your attorney. If your work wants you to sign some weird new employment contract that has language in there about forcing you to take advantage, to be involved in their medical procedures, send it to your attorney. I mean, now you have access to it. Take a look, see what you think. I think it's a great investment. You're definitely going to get your money's worth on this one. Don'tgetpushedaround.com. Take a look. Also, EMP Shield, they're our newest sponsor. Hopefully you don't need it, but I'll tell you what, in this crazy world that we live in, you're better off being a couple months early than a day late. And if there's an EMP, solar flare, or lightning, you're going to be protected. The EMP Shield is many more times more efficient than a single-use military design. It can handle up to 40 EMP strikes. I mean, the world, you won't be able to handle 40 EMP strikes, I assure you, but this device will. It's fitted to the household circuit breaker with just 4 wires. It installs like a Type 2 surge protector. It'll protect your home, your car, your boat, your RV, your generator, whatever you've got. It'll help. They've got bundle packages. So I'll tell you what, do this. Go to the website, www.empshield.com. Take a look. See what you think. See if it's a product that you need. If you find something you like, use the promo code MACRO on your way out to save yourself a little bit of money. We're all going to need it. Well, I'm excited for this one. I mean, I'm excited for all of them, but I'm especially excited about this one because if you've been noticing a theme for the last couple of months with these shows, I have been deeply interested in eugenics, depopulation, the role of the old-timey British lunatics that wanted to thin the herd. And really, for my money, there's nobody better than Matt Ehret. He is a writer at The Last American Vagabond. He is a writer at Unlimited Hangout. And what's funny is that when people ask me where they can go to get some really good news and stories that aren't going to be watered down, I tell them, well, you could either go to The Last American Vagabond or you could go to Unlimited Hangout. But either way, you're going to find Matt's work. He's also an author. He's written Clash of the Two Americas. He's the host of The Great Game on Rogue News. Oh my God. He's the director at Rising Tide Foundation. You're a busy guy, ladies and gentlemen. Matt Arrett. How are you, Matt?
Hey, Charlie. Good. Glad to finally be on your show. And we've had a chance to interact a little bit in the past, but I'm glad that we're going to have a real in-depth conversation today. And yeah, I wear a lot of hats. But, the way I think about it is that if we were actually in, like, let's say, World War II fighting actual Nazis, which we kind of are, back 80 years ago, I'd probably be fighting Nazis and like sleeping 3 hours a day, as our grandparents did in that generation. So here I am. I've got the benefit of living in a bit of comfort right now in my part of the transatlantic psycho part of the world. And I might as well use that time as you are as well, to its fullest.
I feel the same way. I've only got 3 podcasts, a radio show, and getting ready to start another book. So, and all my family related stuff to take care of too. So yeah, it does feel like we're in a war. I mean, it's not a maybe not like a hot war, at least not where we are, but it's an ideological war. And it feels like there is a coordinated effort against us. Obviously, we see the media is used as a tool for this. But if I wasn't doing this, I really don't know what else I would be doing. This seems to be, it feels like a priority to me. And I always joke, like, all I want to do is I just want to do a football podcast at some point. Like I aspire to the day where all these problems are kind of gone, and I feel like, okay, now I can just do a sports podcast, and I won't feel too guilty about it. But unfortunately, I think that might be a ways away because we're up against some of these nefarious people. Hey, real quick before we even get into the topic, can we talk a little bit about your world tour, because you're on a world tour, or at least you were, all over the place. Where were you? What were you promoting? What was happening?
Well, yeah. For the last 6 weeks, my wife and I, Cynthia, who's also she's a co-founder of the Rising Tide Foundation, and she's written her first book as well on the origins of international fascism, looking at British intelligence operations going back to the 19th century. And she's going to be doing volume 2 pretty soon as well. So we had a handful of things to do, but we had, the first step was a speaking engagement in Ireland with a wonderful community of people who have really self-organized wonderfully in the face of the Great Reset and the depopulation agenda. That was it's very clear for the Irish, who have more of a living memory of the genocide that sometimes is euphemistically called the potato famine, as if the Irish of the 1850s only ate potatoes, right? And they had no wheat or cattle or anything else, right? No. So there's a conscious Malthusian genocide to consciously destroy the Irish people for a variety of reasons that we can maybe talk about later. So that living memory is more rich in the minds of the Irish. And so I think they were very quick to resonate to the reality of what is going on behind the surface appearance at Davos and other things. So we had a really huge conference, sponsored by Sarah Haboubi and her excellent team of colleagues at Making Sense. They've been doing this now every few months. Alex Craner came down. Ellen Brown, the public banking guru, a good friend of mine, also spoke. Catherine Austin Fitz spoke. So it was a strong event. John Waters, really, really solid guy in Ireland, also ran for office. Nice. Former mainstream guy. Jumped out of the journalism and into reality, and has been a really, really awesome poet fighter since. So then we went to Ireland, to Switzerland. We had to the Belly of the Beast in Basel, which had another really wonderful conference. About 300 people showed up, all freaked out about the fact that there are obviously sacrificial lambs in Europe being set up for a nuclear war, and trying to figure out how do you bridge East-West relations, how do you defuse the time bomb of weaponized, the weaponized zeitgeist that has been led to believe that our enemy is not the international oligarchy, but rather Russia or China, who are the supervillains. And then that was good, 2 weeks. And then we ended up in Japan working on a sort of video project, as well as a little book deal to translate our books into Japanese. So that was fun. And now we just arrived back a few days ago.
It's fantastic. Yeah, when you were in Basel, Switzerland, I wonder, did you see the BIS? Did you see the building that they're not allowed to search you in, and it's immune from prosecution, and I think the laws of gravity don't even apply inside that building? see that?
Yeah, it's a weird thing. It did, and it's a lot less impressive than the pictures. I was imagining this bigger Mordor style thing, or like the MI6 headquarters in Britain, or HQ. I was thinking something more massive, but no, it's a little building, little tiny thing. Yeah, they're but that's the way it works, right? Nobody really anticipates the rabbit did it. They want to keep themselves kind of like physically minuscule, so that you don't appreciate the actual power that is wielded by this institution.
Yeah, well, they project like they've got a big dick, and then when you get there, it's just a little thing that you're unimpressive. Well, I hope that we can defeat these bastards. It seems like this has been an ideology that's shared by these people. These, I started really talking about Cecil Rhodes and this whole group, the round table, and what comes out of that. And you start to get these think tanks that go on, Royal Institute for International Affairs, CFR. You guys in Canada have your own version of this. You have the Canadian Institute for International Affairs, I guess the Canadian CFR or the Canadian Chatham House, however you want to define it. What has I didn't even really know that even existed, to be honest with you, until recently. What's their role? I think I can guess what their role is, but how powerful and influential are they in Canada these days?
Well, it emerged in the wake of the setup of a series of think tanks spread out around the Anglo-Saxon part of the British Empire. In the wake of Cecil Rhodes' death, and his trust was bequeathed to, and it was run by a Canadian, actually, who was the head of the trust, named George Parkins, who was the former head of Ontario Upper Canada College, and was the manager of this institution that was designed to carry out or fulfill the mandate set forth by Rhodes in his several wills. And I think the most clear and concise will was his 1877 draft that called for the formation of a globally extended secret society under the Church of the British Empire in order to spread the white race, crush the weak, and reestablish the grandeur of Britain as a global Roman Empire that doesn't make the mistakes of the first Roman Empire. So the mistakes see, a lot of these British higher geopolitical strategists, they have a very romantic view of what the Roman Empire was, and in their assessment, that was gleaned from a lot of the propaganda work by Decline and the Fall of the Roman Empire. What's his name? Oh God, blanking. Anyway, they commissioned a work, an assessment of what caused the Roman Empire to fall, and it was published in 1776. Not a coincidence, and it was Edward Gibbons, and they commissioned Gibbons as an appendage of the British Empire to assess and diagnose what went wrong with Rome, so that the British Empire, which at the time was the only global government that existed, the sun never set, right? Tiny little island, was able to control the globe, 25% of the world population or the world surface area. So it's like, how did that little island do that? Well, they modeled themselves on the best of evil. So how could they avoid the missteps of the Roman Empire? And what Gibbon gets across is, on the one hand, there was a lack of cohesion in the auxiliaries. The managers needed to enforce the policies of a central command. Mm-hmm. And number two, Christianity. Gibbons was like, if they didn't have that pesky thing of Christianity emerge, there's no reason to say that Rome would not have been a perpetual, eternal empire of forever. So they're like, these two problems have to be corrected. Now, on the one hand, I mean, we are dealing with a satanic inner core of figures who see themselves made in the image of an evil creator. It's not like they don't have a cosmology or a metaphysics. They do. It's a very poisonous, toxic metaphysics, which projects sort of their own perversity onto all of creation and God, and then they like reconstruct a theology based on that with rituals. But so that part was sort of figured out, but they had a problem with the fact that, okay, so Britain, what's their religion? It's Anglican Christianity is the official religion of the British Empire. Okay, well, and I'm getting at this circuitously, and I'll answer the question on the Canadian Chatham House. But the problem with that is that, well, I mean, on the one hand, it's useful to have the head of state, the queen or the monarch, as also the head of church. So Britain is actually a theological. But at the same time, the problem is they're reading the Bible. So your managers, the civil servants, the governor generals of your colonies who are assigned to keep an evil system of population control in place and thus be on the ground watching people die when they're exerting a policy of, let's say, what's happening in Ireland under the British Empire's policy of population reduction, which was the potato famine. But it wasn't a potato famine. It was a genocide called after the fact a potato famine, never a potato famine. As if the Irish didn't have more than potatoes to eat, right? They had a full spectrum agricultural basket, but it was like that caused 2 million to die, or, no, it was a policy of Malthusian population control. And that was one of the scientific organizing principles of the empire, always was, whether for India or anywhere, keep the population low, stupid, fighting each other, divided, and better, more easily malleable by a supranational elite. Simple formula.
That would never happen here.
No. Now we're in the Enlightened Age. We're so beyond Christianity, because that was only made possible because of a religion, we're told. But anyway, the thing about the needing of managers to do this evil is that sometimes they actually read and thought about the Bible in the 19th century, and their conscience weighed on them. So you have a lot of cases in the 19th century of British auxiliaries within the civil service, including lords, people in the House of Lords themselves, who were calling for the dissolution of the British Empire because it runs against the principles of Christianity. You had people in Canada, the governor of British Columbia as a colony back before Confederation, was this guy Frederick Seymour. He was very, very against the murderous policies of the British Empire, and was actually for helping the colonists then who were being strangled by the British to join up with Lincoln's America. That would have changed the contour of history in a very different way, but he had to be eliminated. So you couldn't really trust the managers to carry out their evil tasks. So Cecil Rhodes, in his will, which was itself trained into him, I don't think he was anybody unto himself. He was like a sociopathic little underling wannabe high up. Like he wanted to be a house slave for the empire that he devoted himself to. But he had people like John Ruskin, who was another pathetic character who wanted to create, a spiritually coherent religion of ugliness around this ethic, this aesthetical ethic that he created out of Venice, of decay as the absolute ideal of beauty. And he's a very influential person. I mean, the whole impressionist movement is highly influenced by Ruskin's theories of art and beauty. And he was one of the lecturers at Oxford who influenced and basically trained a young Cecil Rhodes and Milner and Parkins. And so they took on this mission in their life. And so, they're different stooges are assigned different tasks in the empire, and Cecil Rhodes, due to certain connections with the, Victor Rothschild and certain higher up echelons within the Cecil family, which is another old family of the empire that goes back even before there was a British Empire, there was a Cecil family.